now that you're back, obviously it's early. How are things to be back?
It's kind of exciting, actually. It feels like you're back home after a long stay away. The whole house has been upgraded, so it looks really nice in there. And I feel that we're ready to honor all of the public health requirements and social distancing and sanitization, and we are ready to go.
A few things have changed since you've been at CCI back to transition. Can we touch on the changes? The one thing, and as you've read and as I said, the one thing that's I think it's a major concern, but major change is that only 10 people here as opposed to 30, I believe.
We had a capacity for 30 at the school. We had a capacity before we went to the school in this house for 22, and now we will be 10. Yes.
And is that because of COVID?
Yes. So that is due to the amount of people that can be in the house and properly social distance. So we have to include staff in that. And most often in the daytime, we could have 3 or 4 staff in there. So we had to put it down to 10.
What happens, and again, based on what happens with the others? Because there's talk of other people being allowed to go elsewhere.
Yeah, so
And forgive me, do I call them clients, or what do I?
Guests.
Guests, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, where do other guests go?
So right now we're working on a contract with the county for a motel overflow program. So that would mean once we no longer have capacity, we would then be transporting people to motel. It would be short-term stay. So we look at it as an overflow. So the shelter is where you enter, and once we're at capacity, we will send you out for 1 to 5 days. So let's say tonight we get 14 people. 4 of those folks will be sent to motel.
And again, just to follow, the county picks up the tab?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and not obvious because this is a county facility, so therefore, How was it at CCI?
Oh, I mean, there were some benefits to being at CCI. At first, it was kind of like a vacation, you know. But I think we're ready to go because being in one room in a dormitory setting that has no air conditioning and a huge heat wave has been difficult. And I think even the staff have had enough of that. And there's really nowhere to go. So if we're at the school and it's very hot and we have to go outside, it becomes kind of disturbing to other folk around the area. And I also know school's starting again. So the people who work in there need to get in now to start setting up for September. So it is win-win that we're leaving now.
Is there air conditioning here?
Yes.
Oh, there is? Oh,
Yes.
so bonus.
Yeah, I might not come if I want.
And by this, is there a new program starting up in Port Hope?
Yes. So we have started a new program. It's called Next Step, and it's a transitional housing program. So what our hope is to support people to independence at the next level of housing. So I know this says transition house, but we are an emergency low barrier shelter here. And then a transitional housing program will run out of the Comfort Inn in Port Hope. And there you will have staff working, transitional housing worker, outreach worker. We're working closely with Greenwood, who's providing food and also programming, wraparound, high fidelity programming. So it's a great partnership there, and people can stay for up to 3 months. Our hope is to engage them in all the supports they require and to bring more of them off into permanent rehousing.
Difficult, obviously, in these times especially, for that, just because the economy isn't what it was. Not that it was anything great then, but I mean, even now with what's going on with COVID, obviously that must be one of the factors that make it difficult.
I think one of the biggest difficulties that I see that has no real correlation to COVID is the rental market. The amount of affordable housing available is so small that it's really hard to get someone housed within the time frame we're looking at.
True enough, yeah, I never thought of that. And then the job factor beyond that.
And the Housing First model that we work with says, basically, if you're not housed and comfortable, it's hard to get onto the next stage of your journey, right? So provide that first, and then put the other connections in place for employment and education, etc.
And again, you're looking at other, this is outgrown, isn't it? Like here on Chapel Street,
I would say
unfortunately.
so. I would say so. I mean, it's not ideal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's also quite an old house, so you know what comes with that. If you tear down a wall, you might find things, you know. So I think it will probably end up costing more as time goes on to run the house. So it would be ideal to have a better facility that could accommodate more and maybe have more options within it.
Again, just by Brookside.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind having that location. There's also a nice abandoned place right across the street. I mean, that's the thing about when you're searching for housing and you can't find it, and then there's all these places where there's ability to provide, but there's barriers. So my vision would be to have a new build in the future where we're able to be a little bit outside of this residential area, but close enough to all the services, because we don't want transportation to become an issue, and a place where it's win-win for the community.
Is Transition House a success?
I believe so.
And tell me why. Like I know it's an open question because I want you. You know, that's a perfect thing to say. Not that I'm telling you what to say, but I mean, tell me why it's a success. I should have reworded it that way. Tell me why it's a success.
Well, I feel like that might be a bit of a personal question on perception, right? What angle are you looking at? Because I think that what I've noticed people are wanting to see are statistics on how many people are rehoused and how many people are educated and got employment and maybe managed their addictions or got their mental health situation under control. So it's very difficult to give you high numbers in that area because this work will not provide high numbers in a short period of time, and we've only been reopened for not even 2 years. So that being said, what I find successful is the ability to provide human connection, non-judgmental human support, a place to come, a safe space that you know all of your baggage and issues will not be focused on. What will be focused on is your human need for connection and for a meal and for a bed. And all the things that come with that, we are here to provide the unconditional support to get you there. We understand that it's going to be forward and backward and forward and backward, and we are here for that journey. We get it.
And last question, is it fair to say sometimes Transition House gets a bad name? Part B, do you understand some of the concerns from some of the community?
I most definitely understand the concerns. I really do. They're concerns that I think any parent or any individual might have if they haven't experienced this, or maybe they have experienced it and they had a bad experience and they're not wanting to go down that road again. So I can see how sometimes the symptoms of poverty come out in ways that are unattractive in the community, and it, depending on where you are in life, how you process that's going to be different. And we in Cobourg, I think, have many perspectives there. I understand all of them. I just can't really resolve them all without a full community approach. And as I've always said, this situation might even be bigger than our community. It might be related to just global capitalism and the fact that, you know, it's harder to be an income earner and obtain just middle class status these days. So until there are more connections in place that are actually meaningful to the people we're serving, I'm not sure. Press. Didn't they know we're interviewing?
Hang on, do that one more time. That woke everybody up. There you go. Say that one more time. Forgive me the last part if you remember. So.
I really believe that it takes an entire community approach from all angles to solve issues like this. And it also takes a lot of patience to be willing to backtrack a little bit and go forward a little bit. And finally, we all have to check ourselves in this process, because it's hard not to react when we see stuff that is uncomfortable. And I believe that I'm here to listen and respond to anyone who really wants to talk about it and try and get to the other side. I'm hopeful that it can be calm, collected conversation versus, reading an angry post on Facebook, that doesn't really bring us to a common understanding. I think it creates defenses and actually brings us farther apart. So we actually had a meeting with a couple of the neighbors down the street last week, and I thought it was very productive because, first of all, we were all able to sit around this beautiful backyard and share opinions that weren't the same. But we also agreed moving forward that we have to understand both sides and at least communicate, because without the communication, constructive communication, approach is key, we can't go anywhere. So even if we go 2 more inches, it's better than where we were before. And I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, this county is special. I feel like this whole county is special and there is possibility for this. There is. And that conversation this week I thought opened the door for that. So I'm excited to see where we end up.